Right, so here we are with, I guess, the first 1v1 Invitational tournament. This is the first round matchup between Cat and Gameslayer989. We're playing game 1 of the series. We're going to be on IO, and I'm Blues here with NC Game Wizard.
Hello, hello.
And I've run out of, okay. Load into the game. We have some expensive uranium, iron, and chemicals. Electronics colony. Anything stick out to you about this map?
Ooh, well, looks like ice is a little bit limited. That's going to be where they get their oxygen from. Not limited enough that I think you could easily establish a monopoly, but you have to keep that in mind if you're looking in the top right, that there's just not as much O2 to ship.
Yeah.
That's usually the first thing I look at when I get onto an IO map is what is the ice looking like, because that will affect a lot of the late game.
Definitely worth looking into. Cat chooses to found right in the middle. She should have good access to all the ice. She has some low carbons nearby, which will be important for the chemical price and the electronics colony. All the rest of the carbon is in this top left corner, both highs, the last low.
She is going to have to sell some iron to make that steel profitable.
Yes, both players...
Adjacency is fine, but it's tight. Very tight. Yeah, expansive.
Cat opting for double basalt, double steel. Gameslayer sticking with one steel and going for aluminum. Makes a lot of sense. He's not going to be able to get the quick iron money. Well, the iron money as quickly as Cat did. She just got down sooner. So, might as well get the expensive aluminum instead of producing the fairly profitable steel.
One big danger is if Cat hits level 2 first. She just did. She can do exactly what she did, which is put those metal mines down and just collapse the price of aluminum and just leave Gameslayer in a real lurch. Yeah, it looks like he bought a claim, put down another steel mill. Not a bad decision. You need that adjacency.
That'll definitely help him get to his 80 steel sooner. What I might be concerned about is that he will be sticking longer on HQ1 now. He's also left himself a bit vulnerable to something getting frozen.
The black market is open for business.
Looks like, yep.
We're seeing.
He got, right before that black market came down, what he needed.
It's in some ways good, in some ways bad. Since he's up to HQ2 now, he can put down more claims, but since his basalt shut down, there's very little that's actually producing money for him, so he's kind of stuck here at HQ2.
I don't know how I feel about that steel mill. In fact, I think it's a mistake.
Right, unless he's committing to a third basalt platform, he's not really going to have iron to support this at all.
Oh, there he goes into 2 more iron mines.
I like that better.
The biggest danger here is that he's kind of a one economy, you know, like if something should happen to the price of steel, which isn't that great right now, what's he gonna do? He could maybe transition into glass, but he's got no oxygen to feed it. He's got a little bit of carbon, but not really enough to work with anything.
That's entirely fair. I'm also just not sure what he would have moved into if not more steel. There's just nothing.
Let's look at Cat. Also has more steel.
Right. Fine for her though, since she's already ahead enough to get to that upgrade first. Looks like she's going to contest this carbon adjacency. So someone's going to have to go for that top left carbon eventually.
With a mutiny, you could do good work for either person, really.
Yeah, eventually. I think for the moment there's not much to be gained from carbon.
I guess it comes down to how fast do you want to try and break into electronics, because that's what the colony is demanding. And do you want to stop in chems before you get there to maybe get some patents or some optimizations down?
I'd imagine for both those questions, the answer is not for a while. Power definitely needs to be contended with first. That is looking to deal with that with solar panels, which is nice with how cheap silicon was had gotten, since both players were selling that continuously. Scrape together whatever money they could. See what Gameslayer...
Thing to keep in mind is with power money, it has to pay through debt first, and Cat has a decent chunk of...
Yeah, it's definitely unlikely that Cat ends up making power money, but this should do a lot to help control her debt, and it definitely forces Gameslayer to respond in some way. What she's choosing to do with nuclear plants, that will be reasonable. They're cheaper for him to build as expansive, and thankfully for him, the Sulfur Frost is over. These are not going to take an eternity to build. Looks like Discord is having issues. Or
Yes.
was having issues.
Yes, very much so.
But it looks like we're back now. Interesting
Good.
move by Cat to nuke Gameslayer's carbon here. Not sure exactly what the plan is. I guess that does freeze Gameslayer out of M's or ion collectors for a while. Although Gameslayer is still choosing to push into chems regardless. Now he's scrapped them, going for ion collectors. This is all a lot of time and money that's kind of being wasted here. But it's definitely a difficult position for Gameslayer. Cat, in the meantime, she mostly only loses out on the opportunity to mutiny this quarry. I was going to say she's ahead enough that she could look for a slant drilling patent rush at some point, but of course the game decides that's not going to happen. 32k of debt is going to be a pretty big deal for Cat here. Puts her solidly into the C rating, pushing close to the B rating. Okay. Or, no. Never mind, not close to the D. Either way, that should be very good for her. Lets her avoid going for that carbon top left altogether. It does mean that this single carbon tile is more vulnerable to nukes eventually, but that might not be a problem at all. This IO Quake looks like neither player... Oh, no, Cat definitely took the worst end of that. Geothermal getting destroyed. As expansive, that hurts less, and especially since steel is so dirt cheap right now. Both players just struggling for money. Cat definitely in the better position for money with the ion collectors and the cap. Whereas Gameslayer's kind of still struggling on these water processors. Cat doing a good job of keeping the fuel price up, and neither player really producing the oxygen necessary. Alright. Gameslayer still churning through a lot of money trying to keep these nuclear plants running. He's never going to really get to any significant amount of power money. It means
We can't.
all these water
Hi,
processes.
Blues.
Oh, hi.
I've been out of catch, but hopefully things are fixed now.
Hopefully. I think this is something on the Discord server end, so it might just be on and off a problem for a while.
We'll have to live with it.
Yeah. Well, Cat is going into the patent lab that I would have expected. Interesting placement on it, just away from the solar panels, but easy enough to connect eventually. Probably just protecting against the freeze, and eventually this makes for a good optimization center or something. Or even just a regular tile once it's connected. Nanotech is the first choice.
We're in an interesting position where Cat is much further ahead, but also in much more debt, and Gameslayer is a little bit behind, but
Completely
looking
stuck.
good.
His debt situation is great, but he also has 5 buildings turned off. He has no money. I'm not sure where he's going to go from here. It's kind of the trap he set himself up for, going into water nuke plants. Things in markets he can't really sustain without the carbon, without the oxygen. And yeah, that nuke ended up being very consequential.
Yeah, pretty much. And especially that massive auction for slant drilling. Cat making good use of that over with her carbon.
Yes, definitely. I think not necessarily the case that either player needed the slant drilling, but taking the auction definitely secured this for Cat much more. Gameslayer is in a very difficult position now. Okay, going for thinking machines next. Not quite going for the build he likes talking about so much, the superconductor, nanotech, transparent aluminum thing. Which
I've never been a big fan of the idea of a build. I think everything's situational in the game. So.
Oh, definitely. It is something that tends to work reasonably consistently on IO, more so in FFA, but yes.
Yeah, Cat just pushing for the buy. Probably gonna have it.
Right. Gameslayer's just completely stuck here still. Nothing he can do about that. In the meantime, Cat's still continuing on the patents, building this nice pleasure dome. He's going to keep pushing forward, keep gaining momentum, so even if she can't finish this buy off, she will be just fine. That was an interesting auction for the adrenaline boost. I don't think it makes any real difference here.
I think the only thing Gameslayer could realistically do with the adrenaline boost would be to boost power, but because it was an auction, I'm pretty much lost cause there.
Right, there was basically no upside for Gameslayer there, but it also wouldn't have helped him
He would have clicked one last time. You know, it
like,
wouldn't have changed anything, but it would have been an upside.
Yes, Cat would have been in a miserable amount of debt. If he somehow miraculously survived, then that could have been a problem later on, but it just wasn't going to happen, unfortunately for him. Well done,
I think aluminum was a deciding factor. Once Cat hit level 2 and just had access to all of this aluminum, it's very easy to upgrade at that point. You can make your steel, which you could, and just got out ahead and kept ahead.
Yeah, it was definitely a found that let Cat get off to a much faster start than Gameslayer, especially since Gameslayer kind of hesitated for a while before getting his found down. So that just all added together. Cat had much more money off the initial prices. So she just was ahead, kept pushing further and further ahead.
Yeah,